Do you ever think there may be something more to this all? Do you get intimations of deprival, an incompleteness in your soul that leaves you wondering what is beyond the cosmos? What is our purpose here? At least that's what I used to think, until I discovered religion online, where instead of addressing these deep desires for meaning, I can distract myself eternally through useless arguments like whether Jesus Christ was an Aryan Ubermensch or a Nubian king. Or better yet, condemn anyone who slightly disagrees with me to hellfire. Having trouble keeping those YouTube views up lately? Have you tried converting to Internet Islam? Best marketing decision I ever made. Tired of being called a nerd because you can't get the ladies? Start calling yourself a monk instead. And then, everyone you're jealous of is just a disgusting sinner. Degenerate. Surely treating religion and spiritual connection as a tool for popularity, a social aesthetic, and a way to bludgeon others to make myself feel better about my own broken life will have absolutely no consequences to wider society and our moral compass as a whole. I mean, even if it did, all it would really do is cheapen and make a mockery of some of our greatest social traditions, give us unearned moral superiority, detach us from meaningful connections with other struggling humans, obliterate our understanding of our own souls, and likely seal our path to hell paved by 4,000 Twitter comments condemning others to hell. Which isn't a problem, because anyone partaking in the worst aspects of internet religion likely doesn't believe in hell in the first place. Or they wouldn't be arguing about the power of Jews versus Disney characters as if they were pulling out trap cards in a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Jesus never answered me, but Thor did. Your God is a Disney character. Your God is a Jew. Fuck's sake. But seriously, as the internet turns into increasing levels of absurdity, it's about time we address the growing clout caliphate and all other blasphemous imitations of age-old religions plaguing the internet today. But first, a quick thank you to our sponsor that I am actually super stoked about because, well, I don't really care about the ethnicity debates on Twitter over every historical figure possible. Finding out my own family and ethnic history is pretty damn fun. Meet MyHeritage DNA. It literally took me all of 5 minutes to complete their little testing kit, a quick cheek swab, a second for good measure, in the package and off to the labs. Super straightforward. When I got my ethnicity results back, the first thing that came up was, no surprise, but still fun to have confirmed, 71% Scandinavian. Then 15% Iberian. I have no idea where that comes from in my family, but it's great to know I'm officially a Latina queen. 6.3% North and West European, 4.7% Eastern European, and 4% Middle Eastern. A bit of blood from both sides of the Crusades, if you will, keeping it interesting. The site also has great tools like DNA matches, which will link you up with people who share your DNA and may be relatives. Things like this, and whether your DNA is used in studies or shared, is entirely up to you, which I love, as well as additional tools you can add on like health insights that show what you could be genetically predisposed to so you can make the best decisions for your medical needs in the future. If you're interested in finding out your heritage, go click the link in the description to get free shipping and a 30-day free trial of myheritage.com, or simply use code LaurenS at checkout for the same benefits. So obviously I started this video a little cheeky, but in reality the problem of e-religion is anything but funny, as religion, tradition, the spiritual life, these are all very integral parts of the human experience and journey throughout all of history, and certainly not just the fate of your life, but your entire soul, till the end of time for many people. So in a post-faith world that has sort of accepted materialism as our God, it's no surprise that religion and faith itself has become a tool of materialism, an aesthetic to advance our social status and finances, rather than any sort of deeply held belief. And you know, I will qualify this by saying, I can't tell what is in anyone's heart. Ultimately, that is their personal journey, and it would be deeply ironic of me to make a video critiquing people's pharisaical behavior while claiming I am the ultimate judge of everyone's souls. So that is not what I'm doing here. That's between them and the creator, not me. But I can certainly have a laugh at some of the more absurd engagements with e-religion that I think will perhaps help others avoid more shallow discussions around faith. As someone who grew up on the internet, it is funny to even be talking about e-religion as a concept, as the internet in its early days was always the domain of the edgy atheist. The YouTube skeptics making videos like, Jesus is a scumbag, or why people laugh at creationists. For many angsty teenagers who grew up in Christian households, this was the first questioning of their childhood ideologies they had ever seen, and it became a massively popular phenomenon as a result. But like with most things, the hubris of the atheist movement was its downfall. The mockery really lost its charm as fedora-tipping members of the Reddit community increasingly found themselves not just trying to debunk religion itself, but debunking the prayers for people's infant heart surgeries. You know what's crazy about this is I wrote that line before even finding this tweet because I just know they're like this. It didn't really seem like they were trying to make anyone's life better so much as consistently socially posture themselves as superior intellectual giants compared to your little religioid brains. Just absolutely exhausting and intolerable behavior to be around. And eventually a balance was restored on the internet, turning e-atheists themselves into the butt of the joke. And as the internet grew to encapsulate more normal people, the often very nihilistic and poorly thought out arguments of the e-atheists became easier to dunk on over time. Then a shift began. Once again, as it always does on the internet, if you think you've got it all figured out right now, or you're riding high on the popular ideology, it will most likely be dirt in a year or two. Which brings me to 2016, the era when I began on the internet, and also the spark of the mass right-wing online movements, which are usually, certainly at this time, linked to Christianity. And I have to take some fault here, personally, for the religious aesthetic stuff. I mean, it was all such a whirlwind of cultural change that is intoxicating and exciting. You always want to do as much edgy stuff as possible to really push the boundaries, while not always taking into account how this might impact the future. Take the Crusader memes that I really leaned into at the time with the Deus Vult shirts. If I could go back, slap myself and say, girl, you need to be more concerned with the state of your own soul rather than what you're wearing on your t-shirt, I would. But retrospect is a bitch, isn't it? Because it was actions like this that I think increased the team sportsification of religion online. As mentioned earlier, it is insane how many people spend all day arguing about what color Jesus' skin was in hopes it may piss off a political opponent, when this is completely inconsequential to the faith itself. Or God forbid, we bring up the E-wars between Protestants and Catholics. If you guys thought it was bad in Ireland, I'm kidding. I can't lie though, the denominational wars on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, it can produce some hilarious content. Shout out to Cursed Protestant Nonsense. Here I am, once again contributing to the very problems I'm critiquing, but it is a bit impossible not to laugh at people trying to work in hip content to church services like Among Us.
It says in verse 10, you will know that the living God is among us.
Or attempts to start church acceptance for furries. And who among us can say they haven't gotten a cup of tea to scroll through hours of unhinged denomination wars consisting of 14-year-old Catholics that have never been to Mass before with profile photos of Roman statues and saints versus Protestant soccer moms mere minutes away from deleting their Twitter? Just me. Yeah. All in all, overwhelmingly, this is entertainment, not religion, spirituality, or faith. C.S. Lewis did a great job analyzing interdenominational squabbles in Mere Christianity when he suggested the idea of faith as a hallway, with people having different rooms along it, and recommending, rather than hateful condemnation of people in other rooms, that when you reach your own room, be kind to those who have chosen different doors, and to those still in the hall. If they are wrong, they need your prayer all the more. A lovely sentiment, but this is the internet, and Lewis clearly did not learn the first rule of online debate, which is that anyone who slightly disagrees with me is going to hell. And not just Christian hell, but Muslim hell too. That is, of course, unless you're a live streamer who's obsessed with gender wars 24/7, in which case you are the chosen one of Allah and definitely not getting money from oil sheiks in Dubai. That's right, despite the 2016 era dunking on Muslims 24/7, many red pillars have decided Islam is in fact the new based sacred cow of e-religion. Why, you may ask? Well, in the attempt to debunk and rid ourselves of the internet feminists trying to take away titties in video games, as usual, human beings who are completely incapable of moderation, seemingly a bunch of these anti-feminists decided to just embrace total unironic woman hatred. Definitely not all, but a large enough sect of the internet went from telling feminists they obviously were not oppressed because there were other women living in countries where they're forced to wear hijabs and get stoned for being raped, to raising an eyebrow and going, damn, maybe that's not a bad idea. The amount of internet red pill streamers, like, converting to Islam right now or simping for it is getting a bit comical.
Islam and Christianity have a lot in common. I would say the major difference, there's some weird stuff in Catholicism. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. What the hell is the Holy Spirit? And then you go up and you take your first communion and you're eating the body of Christ in a cracker. So is this cannibalism? Why am I eating a cracker? What part of the body of Jesus is this? Is this the toe part of Jesus am I eating? Is it the butt? It's his body. Kids are drinking wine. Kids are getting drunk. It's the blood. It's wine. Why are we giving kids alcohol? And you're drinking Jesus' blood? It's a little satanic to be drinking a dude's blood.
Here's the thing with the internet. You always have to turn up the dial of bizarre opinions if you want to make yourself unique to the crowd. It used to get views just to do a critical analysis of feminists because people hadn't really seen it before. Then it got views to debunk and confront them in funny ways. And now that there's 5 trillion videos doing all of that, no one's going to find you particularly interesting and give you views which equal money unless you're offering something new, which almost no one can do on the internet. Or Hollywood today, for that matter, anymore. So the only real options left are to go back to something people haven't seen in a while that did well, for novelty's sake, bring it back, and then totally butcher it. And this works especially well if there's already a large existing fandom. In fact, let's look at that word for a second. Fandom. What an interesting word for people trying to attract others to a religion. After all, the word fan is short for fanatic, a term which obviously has religious connotations. And if you look at fan wars today, say over Star Wars, they actually have religious connotations themselves. What is the difference, for example, between people who deny the legitimacy of the Pope and people who deny the legitimacy of Disney's additions to Star Wars canon? Both of them are denying the authority of someone who has legal authority over an established canon, because they believe they lack the moral right to change it. In previous centuries, entire wars were fought over questions like this, whereas now they're literally just disputes between different armies of self-proclaimed fans or fanatics. Why did I bring this up? Well, in the past, if someone had a message that they believed the world needed to hear about morality, justice, or the state of the human soul, we had a word for them: prophet. But in the social media age, being a prophet is much less important than making a prophet. Building a religion on your own is hard. Being original is hard. Whereas cherry-picking parts of an existing religion and splicing them together into some memeable, based Frankenstein in order to capitalize on that religion's existing followers, not so hard. But just like Disney trying to stitch together a woke story out of selectively interpreted parts of Star Wars canon, the casualty of these based scrapbooks of theology is any semblance of nuance or resemblance to the human condition. Nuance, after all, does not sell. The hardest parts of being human cannot be memed. So instead of actually worshiping something and letting that worship change your heart, you're just play acting. I would say LARPing, but to do that, you have to actually do something in real life, and let's be real, this is an online phenomenon. It's funny, and it's entertaining, there's no denying that, but this isn't real theology. It's not even live-action roleplay. This is just turning religion into an influencer-sponsored MMORPG, the new Raid Shadow Legends expansion pack with imams, saints, and whoever else you want to use as a Twitter pic. And just like that, you have e-religion, a faith that has been turned into a fandom. As I said at the beginning of this video, it's not for me to judge the state of people's souls, but I also know of the intoxicating pleasures of seeing those numbers go up on your screen. And when it seems some of these converts are less than honest about their experiences, it definitely brings some questions to the motivations. For example, the streamer Sneeko, who is one of the more recent streamers on the red pill side to get interested in Islam, he explained on his Twitter that he just feels more comfortable praying in a mosque because he has a community around him, unlike when he attends a Christian church, which was basically empty these days. Obviously a look at how Islam is beating Christianity in adherence kind of tweet. The only problem with this was a friend of his jumped in to ask Sneeko why he was lying, because he was with him that day he went to the empty church, and it wasn't empty. Sneeko just showed up too late to actually attend the service, even leaking texts confirming this exchange. And eventually, he gave an excellent suggestion to Sneeko, which was, bro, man, just observe Islam. Stop comparing Christianity all the time, bro. You're acting weird. Just be happy with your new religion. And, I'm probably responsible for a bit of this in my younger years on YouTube as well, because the thing is, team sports, even if not rooted in truth about one of your legitimate faith experiences, are always more exciting to the crowd. Always. I mean, hell, his tweet did numbers and was never deleted. And we're seeing a lot of other large content creators follow this path of talking about their faith in more of a political teams way than any sort of spiritual manner. It really does feel like this meme Shuon had posted the other day, turning a big dial that says, "I'm Muslim now" on it, and constantly looking back at the audience for approval like a contestant on The Price is Right. Once again, I don't know what's in people's hearts, and honestly, between the memeing and the, people getting exposed as not so educated on the actual faith concepts, I do see a genuine desire from people like Sneeko, his followers, and others to be a part of something more. I know when I was younger, it was really easy to latch on to memes and movements because I almost wanted a shortcut to purpose. So I have a lot of understanding for that. But either way, I do worry that a lot of it is being swayed by cultural pressures. And it's really hard to not feel like there is a clout caliphate on the rise that, like most movements, will have a rocketing burst in popularity until it hits a peak, and people partaking in it for team sports purposes will then jump ship, leaving original, genuine adherents abandoned with nothing to show for it but a swath of embarrassing content to explain to people who now assume this is a representation of their actual faith. Now, I'm not making this critique because I think I am better than anyone in it. Clearly, I have always been part of most of the problems that I discuss on this channel. I'm not better than anyone I'm talking about, which is why I don't talk about religion or faith very often here. I've gotten a million things wrong in my life and political journey, and I'd rather not misguide people's souls while still figuring it out myself. To steal a quote from a friend of mine, we should all spend a whole lot more time purity testing ourselves instead of others. Which is why instead of saying, listen to me, I'm the correct one here, I am a prophet, or demanding that you guys disengage from faith conversation altogether, I would just put forward a few recommendations for perhaps deeper, more meaningful writings on these religions that you can engage with if you're interested in it. I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis, Thomas Merton, and G.K. Chesterton. Mere Christianity, absolute banger. And if you are someone who finds yourself struggling with concepts like heaven and hell, The Great Divorce is always my go-to recommendation there. Beautiful story, so well written, and short. You don't have to dedicate too much time to that one, as I know we live in an age where it's go, 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 go. Everyone's always busy. And if I do happen to have any Muslim followers still after my ad-friendly makeup tutorial many years ago, I did ask a Muslim friend of mine to recommend some readings or scholars in that department that went a bit deeper than the memified religion online, and he recommended checking out The Impactful Scholar, run by Javad Hashmi, and also mentioned a gentleman by the name of Syed Hossein Nasser, stating he is the C.S. Lewis of Islam, Lauren. Another interesting note he made while we were chatting about this video was he felt that English-speaking Muslims can be more susceptible to the e-religion trap sometimes, as they are less connected to their traditions, original communities, and those deeper teacher-student relationships that a religious journey is often built on. And I think this is probably true for most religions and traditions today, no matter who you are or what your background is. We've all been very disconnected from one another, from community, and we are all searching for understanding out here. And team sports like ideology or religion can feel like a shortcut to answers and purpose, but often leaves you wanting in the long run. So if you are someone who has maybe engaged with your faith, spirituality, or moral structures in more of a surface level, memeified way, no judgment. We are all at different stages of this insane human journey. And if I can encourage one person, even just myself, to try to go further into the depths of that understanding, I'm happy. And I'm also more than happy to have people here who are skeptical of it all, atheists, agnostics, but willing to listen to a thoughtful conversation around religion. I appreciate that. I appreciate you all being here. I am under no illusions, zero, that I've got it all figured out, no illusions that I can fix the internet or the downward spiral of absurdity our discourse on all subjects has devolved into, but I do hope at the very least I can encourage less of it on my small section of the internet I have here, even if it does mean a smaller group of followers and less engagement. Every month I am typically losing a few more subscribers than gaining, but I have been freed from the shackles, the delusion of believing number go up or down is any metric for whether you've created or contributed something meaningful to the world. I mean, have you guys seen what's trending lately? Do not let the delusion of the popular and addiction to instant dopamine and instant answers distract you from the sometimes less enticing but more meaningful and rewarding long roads less traveled. I appreciate you all. I'm looking forward to reading your comments and thoughts on this, and have a good one.